John Scott here with Jonathan Acosta, where we can finally, hopefully, stop talking about James Cook, because Cook, Bills agreeing on a 4-year extension, $48 million, 30 of it guaranteed. Let's start with a number, because I think that was obviously the biggest sticking point at this point. James Cook putting out, I don't know, what, in January, February, kind of alluding he wanted $15 million. And we know what happened since then. The number falling at 48, 30 guaranteed. For me, I think that's pretty right where it should have been.
I think when he put out that $15 million number back in February, I think it was mid-February, shortly after the Super Bowl, everyone sort of was like, it's not really the number he's going to get, but it's maybe a negotiation tactic. 11 to 12 million always felt like the most reasonable number, especially when you take into account Kyron Williams' deal with the Rams that came in, I think, last week. 3 years, $33 million. Here, Cook getting that extra year. We have to wait to see for more of the finite contract details. But 4 years, $48 million certainly feels like something that's fair. Maybe even a little bit of a win for James Cook, especially when you take into account sort of the other deals that the Bills got done this offseason. All of them were deals that you would say, oh, those were kind of team-friendly terms. You look at Khalil Shakir, you look at Terrell Bernard, certainly Christian Benford for the caliber of cornerback that this team expects him to rise up to, Terrell Bernard included. So James Cook, I feel like he walks away. In fact, he was smiling at the podium today with that contract. I think Tim Graham was the one that noted it, and James Cook told him, you'd be smiling too. So he's a guy that got paid and is certainly happy to be with this team. And I think he's also happy to have this finally behind him and focus on football, because he's a guy that I think knows the value that he has to this offense. This is a guy that we can get more into this and more how they plan to use him going forward. But when you think back to the last time we saw him on the football field, the AFC title game against Kansas City, he was the team's best player on the field. So you know that moving forward, if the team wants to get to where they want to get to, James Cook is going to be an important piece of that.
A lot of the conversation about the second contract for running backs is there's a wall, there's a cliff. They don't age well once they reach their later 20s. Cook will be 26 shortly. I think it's a different story with Cook.
Yeah.
He does not have a lot of the mileage or the carries or the touches that many other running backs his same age in the league do. He was the second running back. He was more of a pass catcher at Georgia, so he wasn't even the starter, which Brandon Beane has noted. He hasn't even been the full-time starter with this team for the entirety of his time, and we know even as he's ascended to multiple Pro Bowls, he's not getting 60, 70, 80% of the snaps and the touches from the running back position. That's why I think the Bills are and should be more comfortable with giving a 4-year deal. Again, we'll see the semantics of it and exactly what it all means. I think you can feel more comfortable with James Cook at 28, 29, even approaching 30 than maybe some other guys at his position.
It's an interesting dynamic, the way they've used him and the mileage that they have on him. I remember I was looking at stuff on Twitter today, and I saw one of the first stories I did here in Buffalo 2 years ago was James Cook prepared to be the lead back in a game for the first time for the Bills going into that Monday night opener against the Jets. You fast forward 2 years, and here we are. He's getting that second contract extension. That mileage, the snap count, because he plays less than 50% of the snaps, right? So that's helped keep him fresh, makes you excited for how he can develop and not wear down going forward. But also maybe part of the reason there was some trepidation to pay him that high number compared to some of the backs like a Saquon Barkley, like a Christian McCaffrey, that are on the field more plays, all 3 down type situations. And something that Brandon Beane spoke about today, that the team does view him in sort of that 3 down, that player who is capable of being a 3 down back, but they also have to manage him. They also have a running back room that they really like with Ray Davis and Ty Johnson that can contribute in 3rd down passing situations. They can pass block. Ty Johnson, a great receiving back out of the backfield. So it's something where you can't just point at the numbers and make it a black and white situation. They are what they are up to this point. Does this contract necessarily change the way that the Bills are going to use him going forward? I'm not entirely convinced so, because he was really productive last year in the way that they used him. And so for this Bills team, his value is sort of being that explosive back. That word explosive, a word that Brandon Beane brought up several times. So is the way that this team gets that most value out of him at $12 million per year, is it sort of using him more at around that 50% snap count? It might be so.
I don't think they should change anything. I think Ray Davis is a good back. He's a great complement to what they can do. I just think philosophically for me, I would like to see all of the running backs, Cook included, get more involved in the passing game. That's what actually Brandon Beane was really raving about him when he made the selection in the second round years ago, was his ability to be a pass catcher, a sub-back type style like he was at Georgia. I'm not saying because of the contract I want to see more of that. I would have said that contract or no contract. I think all three guys can catch the ball in the backfield. I think that's an area Joe Brady, just in totality, can take this offense moving forward. Cook, the distraction, any of that, I think that was also this big talking point, as this thing has taken every turn from the fully going to holding in and all of that. Brandon Beane saying he was concerned, but it didn't come that way, and it didn't seem like it really ever bled the line and bled over from business to personal.
No, and I think a large part of that has to do with, and Brandon Beane spoke about it as much, the core of this team, the leadership from Sean McDermott to Josh Allen, sort of kind of keeping everything, the main thing they love to say here. And so I think a lot of the attention was, they always diverted back to football. They were always very sort of business-like, careful with what they had to say, saying they understood that this was a business, but that they supported James and what he was looking to get. James Cook saying today that he appreciated the support he got from those around the team in his quest to get this generational wealth, as Josh Allen called it, right? So I think the leadership that this team has and the culture, and something that we've been able to really see through Hard Knocks in these first two episodes, I think really showed itself in the way that maybe on another team, not to say names of certain franchises, but on another team, this could have easily been a big distraction and a bigger offseason storyline than what it ended up being.
We've seen things on Hard Knocks. Oh, that's
just a little bit.
That's a different conversation. Maybe we have a different perspective than maybe some of you. Totality, let's go a little higher up. You mentioned the guys that Beane was able to give 4-year contracts to all offseason, and it's remarkable to get them all done, but Beane identifying these guys as the new Bills core. Obviously, Josh Allen, I actually forgot this. That's how many things have happened. Josh Allen getting the big new contract this offseason as well, but as you said, let's see if I can do it, Greg Rousseau, Christian Benford, Khalil Shakir, and Terrell Bernard, and now Cook. That's their 5 guys. That's their core. That's who they're moving forward with. That's the latest, the new version of the Micah Hyde, the Jordan Poyer, the Tre'Davious White, the Stephon Diggs, the Mitch Morse. Like that's the new version of this moving forward. It's kind of interesting to have this shift. Every time you have a franchise quarterback about midway through their career, you get a shift in the core. Where do you think this core stacks up with, hey, this is what this team's moving forward to in the next iteration of their Super Bowl window?
Well, I think you have to be excited because all of these players have shown the ability, or at least the promise, of being top-tier players at their position, or like specifically Khalil Shakir may be a top-tier guy in terms of a slot wide receiver, right? I think Christian Benford is a guy that we expect to be in the all-pro corner conversation this upcoming season. Terrell Bernard, maybe now with Matt Milano healthy, maybe a guy who might, I don't want to say second fiddle, but the attention is certainly on Matt Milano and what he can do this year. But we saw Terrell Bernard 2 seasons ago be that Pro Bowl caliber linebacker, right? Greg Rousseau, the money you're paying him, you're expecting him to rise into that sort of caliber player as well, double-digit sacks kind of guy. And then James Cook has made Pro Bowls himself, right? So this is a group of guys when paired with Josh Allen, you're like, these are the guys that are going to get us over the finish line and potentially to that first Super Bowl trip in 3 decades. It's something that all of those guys talked about when they signed their contract, being part of this core, not just to have success, but have that sort of ultimate success that this franchise hasn't been able to experience yet. I think it's an exciting proposition, and Brandon Beane honestly has to pat himself on the back for, just being able to get all of these deals done, right? Because I think when we were talking about this offseason coming up last year, a lot of the talk was, hey, which one of these 3 or 4 guys are going to be able to get a deal done, and who's sort of the guy that's going to have to sit by the side and maybe enter free agency next season. All 5 contracts being able to get done. I think 4 of them from the 2022 draft class, which when you think about such a big part of a core all coming from one draft class is really impressive. So for as much as we might criticize Brandon Beane in certain aspects of his drafting, maybe towards the top of the draft or the first rounder and everything, that 2022 draft class did turn out to be a great one in terms of being able to build such a big part of this core from that one class.
The Bills are investing in the upside in those guys, and frankly, they need it. Greg Rousseau has to be better. Christian Benford has to continue to excel. Terrell Bernard has to stay healthy and continue to ascend, because when we rattle off those names of that previous core, all of those guys made all pros. All of those guys made Pro Bowls. Not all of the guys who've gotten paid this offseason have done that. Cook, though, is one that has showed that an ascension here, and that's what they're hoping to still get here as well.
And that's maybe why the team was able to get other than Cook, the deals that they got done early, maybe at a team-friendlier number, because they're sort of not necessarily buying low, but buying before the stock is hit its highest point, right? So Smart business from Brandon Beane, but now they have to bank on these guys sort of rewarding that investment.
The next ones up off the top of my head would likely be David Edwards will be a free agent after this year. Connor McGovern, I think, is the most likely one you're going to pinpoint there at center. Osiris Torrance, he's not up after the season, but I think going into his third season in the league, or fourth season at this.
He's going into his third season right now. It just feels like he's been around a long time because he's literally played every game.
He'll be going into the final year of his deal next offseason. I think those three, the interior of an offensive line that has had such great continuity and success, that's where we're going to pinpoint things. We didn't have a chance to ask Brandon because we were so Cook-focused. I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe one more deal to get done before this is coming. Beane did make it known to get under the cap. Once the roster cuts are made, there still are moves that need to be made. That could be a restructure, or again, that could be another extension that drops this year's cap number down with someone maybe like a Connor McGovern. He, to me, Torrance is a separate conversation, but McGovern, who's up after this season, the most likely at the new top of the list.
Well, those are extensions, but you have to figure at some point, whether it's this off season or after this upcoming season, a cut or a trade, because Brandon Beane has spoken about it several times. You can't pay everyone. He found a way to get these 5 deals done, but you can't just sign everyone that is up for a new deal and keep sort of turning that machine, right? There are going to have to be tough decisions made down the line. So you wonder what some of the names or what some of the contracts that might be looked at by this team to say, hey, can you agree to a pay cut, or we might have to cut you the way they sort of had that purge of players last offseason.
That's the conversation we'll save for what? February, March maybe of next year. We have football to talk about. Bill's second preseason game upcoming Sunday night in Chicago. Jonathan will be there. They have a joint practice with the Bears on Friday afternoon. We're going to keep it just a Cook for this one because I think that's the most important thing. We'll get more into preseason stuff as the days go on. With Jonathan Acosta, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.